And just walk me through, you said you have 3 kids. Tell me about your son you said was playing.
Yes.
Just tell me a little bit about him.
So my son is a sophomore at Choctaw High School. He was dressed up for varsity. He actually plays on JV. So this was his very first varsity game of his high school career, which was super exciting. So we take our kids just like normal to the game. And what we did was we actually sat around the 40-yard line. And it was really exciting. It was a youth night, so there was more children there because the youth football league was there as well. And the 5th graders were running out with the varsity. So it was a big night for Choctaw. It's the first game. As we were there, we were normal football game. We were starting to make a comeback, and it was about towards the end of the 3rd quarter, and we heard gunshots directly across from us on the visitor side. My husband immediately throws me down and then realizes we don't have our small children. They are gone, and at this point, everybody is running off the field. Everyone's running below the bleachers, and we are screaming for our young kids, which we can't find because there's over 2,000 people there probably, and stampeding out of the stadium. It was a panic I have never experienced in my life, and I never want to experience it. The closest I can get to it is if you lose your kid in the mall for a hot minute. Now put a shooter involved, and you don't know where they are or which direction they went and how to find them. I was screaming for my daughter. It took us about 10 minutes to find them. She lost her favorite shoe, which was tragic for her because she actually still has the one shoe, and she's like, Mom, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I supposed to remember? And I was like, nope, we're throwing that away. And it took us about 10 minutes to find Maddie, which is my daughter. And it just so happened that my oldest, who is a sophomore, happened to see his brother running. I do get emotional. I talk about it because it's hard for me to go through it, but he actually had taken off his football pads and actually put them on his little brother and hustled them into the locker room. At this time, I had not known that, so I'm still trying to find my other 2. My husband and I had split, and our cell service crashed because everybody was on their phones. So whenever we were going through this, the panic that I felt was horrible, and the stress that my body took on was, I cannot even describe it. We went through, found Maddie, got her into the locker room, was able to find my other 2 kids. The coaches did a phenomenal job of making sure those kids were safe. They put them on lockdown. Only small children really were able to come in, and players. And then from there, I went to go find my husband, which I didn't realize at the time, but our oldest was actually at the game, who graduated from Choctaw last year. So he went to go find her, and I couldn't get a hold of him, and we didn't know what was happening. The worst part was hearing the first set of gunshots and not realizing logically what was happening because it didn't make sense. And then more shots went, and we didn't know which way they were coming at us. Were they coming at someone on that side? Was it outside in the parking lot? And you don't know who is your friend and who is your enemy when you're in that chaos. So it was really hard. Saturday and Sunday, I did a lot of crying and praying. It was rough. From there, I actually went back up to the school on Saturday morning and had to take a minute to just really process what was going on. And it was a situation of grief because I realized that my kid's innocence and the tragedy that had happened was going to forever live with him. My son will never be able to play his first varsity game again. My daughter will never be able to go watch her brother play without having anxiety. I will never go without having anxiety. And it's just really tragic to go through this event. It turns out that the son, or the boy who passed away, is actually a nephew of a nurse friend of mine. So I have a lot of prayers for her because I know that's tragic. And to really go through that process, I can't explain it. Like the trauma is really real, and I'm an adult and I can mostly handle those emotions, but my kids and other kids are struggling. You know, she came back from school yesterday and she's like, we were missing so many kids in school. And I think what we have to realize is that this horrible event forever affected our kids in a position that we never as parents want them to be in. I know that they've come out with new rules and regulations for athletic programs, which I think are great. I think it's good to do clear bags for entry, and that if you're not supposed to be there, you're not getting in there. Because the student didn't even go to either one of the schools. But I don't think we will ever be able to go to another football game without there being some sort of hard emotion going on. It's not necessary for this, but on the way to church on Sunday, my daughter had a plastic bag and popped it, and my husband and I immediately jumped, and I just started crying because it sounded like that gunshot, and it's really tragic. And to hear the stories of all these football players just grabbing kids and heading to the locker room, and ROTC kids protecting little kids, and knowing that I'm very grateful my kids are okay, but it could have been very different because the girl who was shot in the leg was just 15 feet away from me when they started to do the tourniquet on her. And she was just walking on our side. It was a stray bullet. It wasn't like she was an intentional victim. And my daughter is standing at the gate right next to the track with her friends talking. And to know how different the situation is really where my heart hurts the most, because if I feel that way, I'm one of hundreds of moms who feel that way. And these football players didn't get the season that they should have had. It's really hard to put into words, just like the sadness that I feel for our kids. And, you know, we came from Texas and from San Antonio, and to think of gun control and gun issues in Choctaw, Oklahoma would have been the very bottom of my list. I would have never even thought about it. I would have told you were crazy if you told me that. Because it was a safe place, and they take a lot of pride in their students and a lot of pride in their programs. But I just think that what we had to go through is something that I've read about and that I couldn't even imagine a conversation with myself, but to experience it is horrible. And I don't even have like a actual word to describe how hard it is to put into words the amount of terror that you feel running through a crowd. Kids are lost everywhere. No one knows what's safe. I can't find my daughter. I can't find my other kids. And I just never want to go through that again. I don't want anyone to go through that again. And that's really where my tragedy started, and that's why I made a TikTok video, which I never post, and it went viral, and it was just a platform for me to explain what horrible terror I felt in a midst where there's shooting at my son's game and he's on the field. What if that had hit him or another player, and the emotional turmoil that they faced walking into that locker room yesterday, knowing so much had been changed in their career, in their lives, in their school year. And they will always have that mark on them, and they never get to redo that. So that is a mass majority of what I went through. the trauma and the reality and the noises and things like that are very real, and I know I'm not the only one who's experiencing that. I'm very proud of those boys for, man, that's hard. I'm very proud of those athletes for jumping in and protecting every kid they could find. And those coaches jumped in and protected those kids. And I know it was chaos for them as well. And they were trying to calm parents and kids and students and cheerleaders and Del City students. And it was hard. And those gunshots will be something I never unhear.